Hello guys and welcome to a Draw With Me video. Today I will be sharing with you the full process of my redraw challenge. Let me show you the original illustration first and the reference I use for the pose and the background. And now let's sketch. Something that I learned this year is that drawing the full shapes of the body helped me to keep the proportions right. The truth is that I don't practice full bodies very often, so the first rough sketch was just to figure out the forms and the position of the body without paying attention to any details. When I have the forms, I clean the lines and I add all the parts that were missing, like the face, the clothes and the hair. Sometimes I need to clean those lines more than once, even twice, because I still need to redefine some parts that I don't like yet. I used the same brush, playing with the sizes to have more controls over the lines for all the 3 sketches. For the background, I did follow the same steps, keeping the lines really simple and not perfect. Let's paint. Sometimes you ask me why I paint all the silhouette with the same color. Well, this is called the base shape. There are many ways of painting, but in my case, I like using the selection tool. I realized that thanks to the base shape, I can color much quicker because I just need to be very careful with the borders, something that I hate a little bit, just once. I like to rename all my layers during the process, so when my patrons download the PSD file, they can check all my steps easily. I color using the selection tool. I create a new layer on top of the base shape for every object in a clipping mask and with the color fill option selected. As you can see, it is really easy, but the borders are not perfect, so I paint the missing stroke with the base shape brush to keep the same textures. This time I'm using the ink bleed brush, but I also love the dry ink for this part of the process. There could be some blanks like it happened to me in her arm right now, and this is because the base shape wasn't well painted. So what you need to do is to pick the same color as the base shape, go to that layer and fill the blanks. I paint the hair a little different because I like to use a brush that simulates the strands better and that add more movement. If I didn't draw them in the first place, I go back to the base shape layer and I draw them using that texture brush. Before continuing with the rest of details, I like to adjust the colors until I like it. Since every color is in a different layer, I repeat the process with each object. Next step is the face. Except for the eyebrows, I use the same brush to color the eyes and the mouth. I continue using the selection tool to color inside some shapes, like for example the lips. And you just need to go to the shape, select it, go to the layer that you want to paint, and don't forget to remove the fill color option before. To finish with the face, I like to add some blush and shadows to the neck and nose to give the character more depth. And then I move to the hair and I also create different shadows with multiply layers and the same texture brush that I told you before. You're going to find them all in the description, so don't worry that you are going to know which brush I'm using for every step. It depends on the illustration. I keep the line art in an overlay mode, or like in this case, I draw some lines in the areas of the same color to create separation between shapes. I'm trying to simplify the number of brushes that I use, and for these lines I'm also using the same one as I did for the eyes or the mouth. It is a brush from the Wash Max Pack and I really like the movement. It's smooth and steady. At this point I realized that the orange color of the skirt was really saturated. I decided to change it for a pinky soft one. If you swipe 3 fingers down the script, you're going to find the option copy, and if you repeat it, you're going to find the option paste. I do this instead of duplicating all the layers and then merge them. Don't forget to hide all the layers you don't want to copy, like for example the background. I'm just adding some occlusion shadows using a blue-purple tone where the objects touch each other, and our girl is ready. Painting a background is always a challenge to me. I know I need to practice them more. So I started painting the colors of the ground and the ceiling with a soft brush, and then I painted the trees using different colors for the leaves. My lines are not perfect because I'm going to blur them later, so don't worry about that.
I've been thinking of how to deceive you, to make you leave me first.
When you paint them, try to respect the real color of the objects. Like for example, the ceiling is blue because later we are going to add a layer on top of everything that is going to switch the lights off.
Only a matter of time. And it's my biggest fear, don't you know this? Being left behind. The way I feel is gonna get the best of me. The way I feel, I'm losing you completely. The way I feel.
I created a different tree at the top of the canvas using different colors to separate it from the rest of the background.
The best of me. I've been thinking of ways that could lead.
I merge all the layers except from those from trees, and I apply a 10% of Gaussian blur. Then I do the same with the front layer, but applying just a little less, and you can see the objects are in different positions. We are ready to start playing with lights. I start creating a blue layer on top of everything in multiply mode, and ta-da! Lights are off now. Time to paint some Christmas lights in the trees. I played with different shapes and I used some light brushes that really helped me with this process. I duplicated the layers to check the difference between the add blending mode and the normal blending mode, since these brushes already have some lighting effects. Now it's time to experiment painting with soft brushes, the light reflection on the ground and on the girl clothes in overlay mode. I like to reinforce the light in a new layer with a more detailed brush, using the same color and blending mode where the light touches the girl in order to separate her more from the background. If I need to bring more light to her face or her hair, I create new layers and I select the shapes that I want to illuminate using the soft brush. Don't be afraid of keep adding details until you are happy with the results. In my case, sometimes I need to come back to some layers because I forgot to add some lines, like for example, the reflection on her face. When I was about to finish, I realized that because of the leaves of the trees, the light could be brighter at some points. So I created a new blue shape in multiply mode to get the girl darker. And using a mask, I deleted some parts where the light is going to access easily. Since the light is not going to be steady, I use the perspective blur to give it some movement. I add my signature, readjust a bit the colors, and it's done, guys! Here's the comparison between both drawings. I have to say that I still love the original one, but I feel that I have improved the anatomy. For example, the arm looks more natural. I've learned how to play with light. There are so many things to improve yet, but the truth is that I'm pretty happy with the result. Hope you enjoyed this Draw With Me video. I really appreciate your support, Patreons. and I can't wait to see you soon. Bye!